Hey everybody, welcome back. Tack för sist, välkommen tillbaka. So this video has the potential to come across some landmines. I want to put a little disclaimer out there before. What I'm going to talk about today is based on a survey that I just heard yesterday that 4 out of 10 Americans identify as having, the word wasn't mental illness, but mental stress, anxiety, discomfort with their life. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I want to preface it by saying I definitely am not belittling anybody that deals with that. I know people in my own life that deal with it. So I hope my intent is clear that I'm a sympathetic / empathetic person. I really am, especially with people that I know and in my life. But I feel for people that struggle in this world. I feel very blessed to have been born where I was born in Norway, and then get to move to Canada, and then to the United States. I mean, I know that I'm blessed just with the situation. I did not grow up rich by any means. My family had very modest means. My dad was a welder. He worked on the shipyards in Norway. We moved to Canada. He worked at a sugar factory as a welder, and then he started his own welding shop in a farm town where a lot of years it was really tough to collect from farmers because they didn't have any money, because their crops didn't come in or whatever reason. So I just want you to know that that's where I'm coming from. That being said, I feel like it's changed a lot in the last 20 to 30 years. When I was growing up, I grew up, in this little town in southern Alberta, Canada, and you just didn't come across that very often. People that seem stressed out. Obviously, older people in my life, I never saw it a lot with my parents, but they obviously had financial stresses. They just didn't make that much money, but we lived a great life. I never felt that. We had great Christmases. We went on vacation every summer, rented a cabin for a week. It was a fantastic childhood. But that being said, I didn't see a lot of mental illness, anxiety, whatever you want to call it. Now back then, like I said, I grew up in a little town, 4,000 or 5,000 people. Every town, all these little towns around me. There was Lethbridge, Alberta, which was a town of maybe 40,000 people back then. It might be 70 or 80,000 now, I'm not sure. But there were all these little towns with 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, or less even. I knew, by the time I got to be 16, 17 years old, I knew people in most of these little towns. Every one of these little towns had a person that was known as, I'll just say what we said back then, the crazy person. We had a guy in our town. I thought he was really old. Looking back, he was probably in his 40s. I don't remember actually I do remember his last name, but I'm not going to say that. His name was Jake. If you're from that town and from that era, you probably remember him. He used to wander around town, just mumbling to himself. As far as I know, he didn't have a drug problem. Everybody just called him the town drunk. He obviously had issues. I assume he lived somewhere, but whenever I'd see him, it was just out on the street when anybody would see him. But I'm sure he had somewhere he lived. He wasn't homeless as far as I knew. In fact, back then, that term where we lived was basically unknown. I'm in the Bay Area of California right now, and I don't know the stats exactly, but it's more than half of all the homeless people in the United States live in California. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's because of the rent and the mortgage, houses are too expensive. I'm sure there's some of that. I think there's a lot more of a drug problem, and specifically things like fentanyl and these drugs that mess with your brain and screw you up. I saw a guy walking down the street today, just flailing his arms, talking to himself. I felt bad for the dude. I don't wish that on anybody, but I don't think most homeless people are people that lost their job and then just decided to, out of circumstance, to live on the street. Now, I'll probably get some pushback on that, and that's okay, but I could back all this up with statistics and proof. I've heard many homeless people in California interviewed specifically about this, and some of them were quite well spoken, and a bunch of them said, I don't want to have a home. I don't want to have responsibility. I want to live my life and do what I want. And I think it's starting to change, but some of these cities, not just in California, the West Coast overall and Salt Lake City, where I'm from, there's definitely some of that there too. It's not like anybody's immune to it, but lots of times when governments try, first of all, I don't think government is the one that should be trying to fix this. Government just wastes our money. When somebody talks about government money, it drives me crazy because it's our money, taxpayers. There is no government money without people. And billions and billions and billions of dollars have been thrown at this, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. So it's obviously being spent poorly. But there's been lots of experiments of trying to put homeless people into shelters or little homes or whatever, and most of them end up leaving. They don't want to live that life. Until we come to terms with the drug problem that is rampant, and that's not coming from me. Like I said, I heard many, many people interviewed about this that are living on the street and say, yeah, it's 90% are, taking fentanyl or whatever they can get their hands on, which is its own problem that we need to try to fix. I'm not suggesting screw them all. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know well, that's not right. I have my opinions. Listen, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. Take what I'm saying as my opinion, and obviously you have your opinion, and feel free to share it with me. Try to be respectful. I'm trying to be respectful here. I'm not trying to be mean or, denigrate people. That's not what I'm trying to do. Society's better as a whole if we can all come together and live together in peace. And, I'm all for solving the homeless problem. I think the reason I'm even bringing up the homeless problem, because I think it's a giant part of our mental well-being problem in this country. But it's more than that. Like I said, where I grew up, I don't remember a single friend ever telling me they were stressed or anxiety ridden, or when a test would come up, or you're applying for a job. Sure, there was some of that, but not like I see in younger people now. I've mentioned many times I have 4 kids, all grown. They're 25, 28, 31, and 35. They're all at varying places in their lives. And I've been around them and their friends now for 35 plus years. Yeah, over 35 years. I've seen a lot of kids. I've seen a lot of young people. And it's definitely more of an issue with younger people now than it was when I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, I was always worried about money because I was a broke college student. And then when I got married, I was broke married dude. That never led me to, I wish I could remember the term they used in this poll, because it never led me to just being stressed out of my mind. I have been stressed out before over finances, there was a period right after my wife and I, who've been married almost 30 years now, just a couple of years after we got married, we had a really rough patch where I had all these contracts and they all fell through at the same time. Just Murphy's Law followed by a tsunami. It was brutal. And we didn't know how we were going to pay our bills. And we had to struggle and fight and get through that. And it was not easy. I found a way. I went out and literally knocked on doors with a spray can and stencils. Can I paint your address on your curb for $5? I go a little crazy when I hear somebody saying, oh, you just can't make a living, you can't do this, you can't do that, everything, I'm stressed out about everything. It's like, I don't know. It's out there to get. Go get it. And I've had these comments, okay, boomer, you're so out of touch, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But I wasn't always 62. I was 20 and 30 and 40 and 50. And I worked through a lot of tough times. And I worked my ass off to build a business. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. But I know one thing, the invention of the smartphone was a huge, cool thing and a blessing, and also a huge detriment to society. Young people were not, I wish I could remember the stat, I can't, so I'm not going to say it exactly, but it was very high. The difference from young girls, I think it was 12 to 18 years old, the suicide rate, the attempted suicide rate among that age group has just skyrocketed since the invention of the smartphone. Bullying has always been around. It's horrible. I witnessed it. I was even on the losing side of that a couple times. I wasn't the most popular kid. I wasn't, whatever you want to call it, on the other end. I had friends with the popular kids. I was kind of in the middle with kind of friends on all levels. But I saw it, and it was awful, and it sucks. But now, kids can't get away from it. It's like you go home and your smartphone's there, and they're addicted to their smartphones. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. I am on social media, obviously. I am doing this video. I have a TikTok account that is actually doing quite well. I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel. I enjoy it. I love this. I love the feedback that I get from y'all. So I get it. I'm not criticizing anybody for being too addicted to their phone, because I could definitely cut back, and I have been trying actually. If I'm standing in a line somewhere waiting for something, I try really hard to not pull my phone out and just, doom scroll, just for no reason. Just, I got to look at something. I have tried really hard. I used to be on Facebook a fair bit. I've cut that down to almost nothing. Instagram a little bit. Mainly it's YouTube and TikTok. And I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, but I watch a lot of stuff that I consider, educational, informative. I watch a lot of guys and ladies talking about retiring in your 50s and 60s, because I'm close to that and I want to do that. I watch people with nature shows. There's I don't know how old she is, mid to late 20s, Girl Outdoor, I think is her handle. She's British, and she travels around and does these videos just of nature and her hiking and meeting people randomly. And there's another guy I watch, Peter something. He's huge. He's got 9 million followers. He goes to different towns and he talks to people. That's something I really want to start doing with my channel, is starting to talk to people, get interactions with people in real time. And, I watch a lot of these people. What's his name? Not Mr. Beast. He tells the stories. I've talked about him on my channel here before. I watch him. It's very rare that I just watch, like, here's a cat jumping off the house and landing on its feet, or here's funny dog tricks. Or I have friends that send me a lot of those kinds of videos. They don't really interest me. I'm way more interested in my mind being stimulated. You know, it's something I worry about getting a little older. I want to keep my brain stimulated. When I'm working, I rarely listen to music anymore. It's all podcasts, things that make me think. Hopefully my channel can do that for some of you all. And I'm not saying I'm some genius that's going to stimulate your brain, but maybe something I say will trigger something that makes you think about something you hadn't thought about, including this. So yes, I think smartphones are a huge part of our mental problems in this country now. The anxiety, I don't remember there being anxiety like there is now. And this is something that I have personal experience with people very close to me, that I have a really hard time dealing with it, because my brain doesn't work like that. I never had those issues. I never got, when I went through my divorce, obviously I was stressed and it was anxious, and I had, I guess, anxiety, but not like on a daily basis. I don't wake up every day thinking, oh no, I got to get this done. Oh, what am I going to do about this? Oh, how am I going to find a job? Even when I've had slumps in my career where, 2008, 2000, there were times where it was kind of rough getting work. I always, I've talked about manifestation, and I don't know exactly what I think about that, but I do believe in the power of positive thinking. I think it was Stephen Covey had some books about that kind of thing. I believe that, I'm not saying you can magically make things happen. I believe that your brain is way more powerful than we all think our brains are. And I think we can attract things to us. So I always, if I'm doing a bid or I'm having a slow slump, I pray to a higher power. And I'm like, I know it's going to work. I know it's going to work out. And it always, always has. Knock on wood. It's not a magic formula. I'm not claiming it is. And I'm not trying to put myself into your shoes if you're having a really rough time. I'm just telling you I've had rough times. But my rough times pale in comparison to a lot of people in this world that are born into severe poverty. Now that's something to be crazy anxious over. And where am I going to find my next meal, let alone am I going to get another job coming up 6 months from now? I'm pretty lucky. I'm usually booked up quite a ways ahead of time. And hopefully that continues for 2 more years and I'm freaking done. I'll do some painting on the side, but maybe go work at Home Depot in the paint department. If you have thoughts on this, I know I'm kind of rambly on this, but I actually went on to ChatGPT before this, and I kind of wrote up a couple of paragraphs of what I wanted to talk about here. And, give me some ideas, give me some bulletin points. I actually have them all here on my laptop, but I don't like turning and like reading while I'm talking to y'all. I want this to be a conversation, even though you're not talking back to me right now. I hope you'll reach out with comments. And like I say, I'm not trying to poo-poo the idea that people have anxiety. I do believe people have a lot of anxiety, especially younger people. And I feel for them. I wish there was a magic pill. I'm not going to claim I'm smart enough to fix the problem or that I have the magic solution. But smartphones definitely have contributed to this. Social media has definitely contributed to this. I had a couple of rough patches when I was a kid. One specific one, I wasn't driving yet, so I was probably like 13, 14, somewhere right in there, junior high. And my best friend and I had a big fight over a stupid game of Risk. He called me a cheater. I'm not a freaking cheater. I don't cheat. I quick aside, nah, never mind. I wasn't cheating, but he just claimed I was, and we literally got into a fight, and we lived 2 houses apart. I went home. The next day I walked to school, and after school, he was waiting for me with like 3 of his other friends that were not friends of mine, guys I didn't like. I mean, frankly, they were, I don't want to call them what I think they were because it's a little coarse. And they basically ganged up on me and kicked the crap out of me. Sorry, almost an S-bomb there. Like I said, I don't swear a lot, but I do swear in my real life. And if a swear word comes out, I apologize. I have never claimed that these are, videos for kids. In fact, when it says, who's this audience for? I say, no, it's not for kids. So hopefully you forgive me give me a little grace if it slips out. I don't want to restart the video if I accidentally throw some bad word out. So they jumped me. For the next several weeks after school, I knew they were waiting for me again. This is over a freaking game of Risk. One of my best friends. It's crazy. So I had to find sneaky ways to get home. We lived, like I said, 2 houses apart. He was going to go the same way. I had to find, it's a little town. And I spent several weeks doing this until we finally resolved our differences. And I was like, dude, what the hell, man? I thought about I'd have been fine saying, okay, you got a problem, let's fight. That was pretty common back then. Let's fight. Let's solve this. Fist fight right now, you and me. But this 4-on-1 crap, that's Bush League. I was bullied for a while there, and luckily I didn't deal with it a whole lot. There were kids in my school that got bullied a lot. And when I hear about somebody who's bullied to the point of breaking, and they either, take the ultimate consequence or maybe consequences against other people too, well, then I don't have a lot of sympathy for that part. I have sympathy for what they're dealing with. And if they hurt themselves over that, that's horrific. But don't hurt other people because you're hurting. Find another way. I actually think bullying has gotten way worse in the last few years. I hear about it a lot. I saw it when my kids were younger. There's this trend of let's treat the bully and the person being bullied the same. Let's fix it. No, it's not the same. The person bullying is the bad person. Maybe they got problems in their lives. That needs to be addressed with the parents. Figure out what's going on that's causing this person to beat up somebody smaller or weaker, or because they're different than them, or whatever. But the person being bullied is the victim there. And I'm not on board with saying they're both victims. Maybe. But the one being bullied is the bigger victim, and we need to treat it like that. And we're not going to fix society by saying, well, it's okay that you bullied them. What was the reason? Why'd you do this? And now the kid being bullied's got to speak for... Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. I could get into a hour-long video about that by itself. So, like I said, I do not have all the answers. I'm not trying to be some wise guy here or say that the fix is simple. It's obviously not. I think I've heard that there is a bit of a trend going on with younger people towards using their phones less, getting flip phones even, non-smartphones. And I think that's a good trend. I mean, like I said, I dig this. This is freaking awesome. I love talking to y'all. But I'm sure there are a lot more reasons. Part of it too, I don't want to downplay the fact that there were maybe people in my life back then that were dealing with that. It was just people didn't talk about it. It was, now if something bad happens in the world anywhere, you can see it instantly. Somebody's got a phone, somebody's got a camera. They're videoing it. I always want to say videotaping it. There's no freaking videotape, boomer. I'll call myself boomer. There you go. I already saved you the problem or the trouble. You see everything instantly. That didn't happen before. You know, I didn't hear about something happening in Nigeria or Japan or Brazil that was horrific and horrible, but you didn't see nonstop. You turn the news on now, how much good news is there? They focus on the bad because it gets more clicks. It's more just exciting, I guess, to put the bad out there and try to get people to click because you're talking about all the horrific things that happen. There are a lot of good things happening in the world too. In fact, one of the things I'd like to do on this channel eventually is find like some cool, good stories around the world and talk about it. You know, I've got tons of experiences of my own, but it's cool exploring other people's experiences and stories. And I don't want to focus on all the negative. Even this video here, I'm just talking about it to shed more light on it. And there's plenty of light on it, but we got to figure something out. I feel really bad, you know, and I know financial hardships are a part of it too. I understand rent and mortgage payments, even with, you know, an inflation calculator adjusted for inflation, are way higher for my kids than they were for me. When my ex-wife and I were looking for a house in 1989, our high price, the price we could not go above because we couldn't afford it, was $50,000. Now Utah real estate has skyrocketed. It's crazy. It's not as bad as California and some other places, but it's pretty bad. The median house price, and I mean, my house has tripled since I bought it 20 years ago. That's obviously outpacing inflation. There's what's called the rule of 72. You take the interest rate, say that inflation was 7%, which is horrendous. That's very, very high inflation. That would mean that basically every 10 years, something would double. Well, my house has doubled and then 50% again. It would have to be somewhere in the 5.5%. I haven't done the calculation, probably 5.5%, 6%. That's way above inflation. So I understand that rent's ridiculously high. I understand houses are out of, you know, way higher, adjusted for inflation. And I feel really bad for people that are trying to do this. We've been blessed enough to do what we've done on a single income. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. She is working with me now. She's a painter now, and she's a damn good one. It's pretty cool, actually. We were blessed to be able to do it on one income. I know most people can't live the life they want to live on one income anymore. It is doable, and I know young people in my circle of friends in their 20s and 30s that are doing it. But it's rare and it's tough. So I'm not going to speak for anybody. I'm not going to tell you you're doing it wrong. Do your best, and I hope it works out for you. This video went quite a bit longer than I had planned on. Thank you for watching. I hope I didn't piss off too many people. I am anxious to read and interested to read your opinions and comments. I hope I didn't offend anybody. That's not my goal. I really do feel for people that are anxiety ridden and stressed out all the time. One thing for sure that has contributed to this is our political climate, and I'm not going to get into details, but we were not at each other's throats the way we are now 20, 30, 40 years ago. We just weren't. People didn't talk about politics. That was never a subject, ever. All through my 20s, I don't remember ever talking to anybody about politics. Maybe around a major election, you know, who are you going to vote for, blah, blah, blah. Most of the time, you didn't even ask that. And so being so divided where if you're on that side, I hate you. You're on that side, I hate you. There was a poll that came out pretty recently about that too, that both the left and the right view the other as bad people. That's ridiculous. whether you're on the left or the right, I'm sure 90% of you are really good, decent people, and we could be friends. There is an extreme on both ends that I have a real problem with. That is the problem, because they're so outspoken and they're the ones that get hurt. But I think the majority of the people in this country are common sense, decent people that just have different opinions, different views of life, and that's okay. I hope we can get past this point, past this heated rhetoric over politics and just, I hate you because you vote for so-and-so. That's, and I'll probably get some comments on that too. People ask me quite regularly, well, who did you vote for? I'm not going to tell you. That's my private thing. I don't talk about it. You can assume whatever you want. I guarantee whatever you're assuming is probably not correct. Let's just say I'm a very moderate dude. And in my whole life, not just in that field, I'm a moderate guy when it comes to religion. You know, I've talked a lot on these videos about leaving the Mormon church, and I did one on Christianity the other day, which I want to delve way more into. There's so much interesting history, and I got some really cool comments from y'all. I appreciate it. And I appreciate those of you that are very like, this is the way, this is the truth. I mean, that's cool, you believe. You're not going to change my mind, but I like reading them. And there are things that I read, and I might reconsider certain things. I don't think I'm going to reconsider my religious point of view or my morals or my ethics. That's not changing. That's who I am. I hope I come across as sincere, because this is me. So thanks for watching. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for the likes, the comments, the subscribing. It's very cool watching this thing just grow slowly but surely. And it's a lot of fun. I dig it. I have, when I'm on the road like this, it's an outlet for me, because, I talk to the person at the paint desk. I talk to my wife every day a couple times on the phone. But, for the most part, it's just me listening to, my headphones on. So this is a nice outlet for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope for the best in your life. I hope for good relationships, financial success, all of that. Blessings upon you. Whatever you believe in, whether it's God, the universe, fate, I respect, like I say all the time, I respect your point of view as long as you don't hurt anybody. If you're hurting people because of your religious views or your political views, then we probably can't be friends. I think that's just wrong, period. That's black and white to me. There's just, you're on one side or the other. If you hurt people because of your beliefs, I just think you're wrong. But that I'm perfectly willing to have discussions and talk about our disagreements. I have responded to many people that have disagreed with me, but they did it in a respectful way. I try to be respectful back. Anyway, long enough. Have a fantastic night, y'all. Tack för denna gång. Vi snackas igen snart. Det är inte länge nu för jag reser till Norge. It's not very long until I travel back to Norway. I'm so excited. If any of my cousins are watching these videos, vi ska träffas i Norge, vet du. I hope to meet all of them. I know one of my aunts has a big get-together planned. I'm so excited for my kids and my wife to meet. I've got so many relatives over there. So many. I've got right around 30 aunts and uncles, and then all those kids are all my cousin kids. We're all in our 40s, 50s, and 60s now, but have a great night, everybody. Peace, love.